They say betrayal never comes from your enemies, and I learned that the hard way. My greatest heartbreak didn't come from a stranger. It came from the man I thought I'd marry, and the friend I thought I'd have for life. The two people I trusted most turned my world upside down. It all started back in March 2021. I wasn't even looking for love. I had just gotten out of a draining relationship and told myself I needed a break. But fate had other plans. At a small dinner party hosted by a mutual friend, I met Daniel. He wasn't the loudest person in the room. In fact, he was the opposite: calm, observant, and kind of quiet. When he looked at me, it felt like he saw straight through my walls. We ended up sitting next to each other that night. I remember he asked me about my favorite books, and when I mentioned one he hadn't read, he actually wrote it down in his phone. That small gesture melted me. A week later, he asked me out for coffee. And from there, things just blossomed. The first few months with Daniel were magical. He had this way of making me feel like I was the only person in the world. He'd show up at my office with my favorite tea, send me good morning texts before I even woke up, and plan little surprise date nights. After just 2 months of dating, we went on a weekend trip to the mountains. I'll never forget that trip. The way we laughed when we got lost on a hiking trail. The way he carried me on his back when my shoes gave me blisters. The way he whispered late at night that he could see himself marrying me someday. For the first time in years, I thought, this is it. This is the man I've been waiting for. But as the months passed, subtle changes began to show. At first, it was tiny things like him forgetting plans we'd made, being distracted during conversations, brushing off my feelings when I tried to open up. Then came the phone habits. His phone, which used to lie carelessly on the couch, was now glued to him. Face down, always locked, sometimes taken to the bathroom. When I joked about it, he got defensive. I remember one night vividly. We were watching a movie and his phone buzzed. He grabbed it so fast I barely saw the name, but I caught a glimpse. E. He mumbled something about it being a coworker and changed the subject. That was the first time I felt the pit in my stomach. Whenever I brought up concerns, Daniel had a way of twisting things. He'd say things like, "You're imagining it. You're too sensitive. I've just been stressed with work." And for a while, I believed him. I told myself I was overthinking, that maybe my past relationship trauma was clouding my judgment. But the distance grew. Our intimacy changed. There was less affection, fewer kisses, and when we did talk, it felt surface level. Like he was present physically, but his mind was elsewhere. The worst part? My best friend Emily started noticing too. She'd ask me if I was okay, if I trusted him, and I confided in her. She was my rock, the one I vented to whenever Daniel made me feel small. Things escalated the night his phone betrayed him. Daniel was in the shower when a message popped up. "Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you." I felt my world tilt. My hands shook, but I didn't unlock the phone. I didn't need to. I knew what it meant. But instead of confronting him right then, I waited. I needed more proof. For the next few weeks, I started noticing perfume that wasn't mine, shirts that smelled like unfamiliar cologne, and nights where he'd work late but couldn't explain the details. Finally, one evening, I followed him. My chest was pounding as I tailed his car to a quiet restaurant. And that's when my nightmare came true. He wasn't with some random coworker. He was with Emily, my best friend of over 10 years. I sat in my car, frozen, watching the two people I trusted most laugh, touch hands across the table, lean into each other like lovers. My vision blurred with tears. It felt like I was being stabbed in my chest over and over, non-stop. I didn't confront them right then. I couldn't. I was too hurt and paralyzed to. I drove home shaking, replaying every conversation I'd had with Emily about my relationship problems with Daniel. I remembered her fake concern, her probing questions, her support. She hadn't been comforting me. She'd been gathering information to cover her tracks. That night, I asked Daniel directly, "How long have you been seeing Emily?" He froze. At first, he denied it, but the guilt was all over his face. Finally, he admitted it had been going on for months. He claimed he hadn't meant for it to happen, that they just connected. And then he had the audacity to tell me he still loved me, that he didn't want to lose me. I laughed a cold, broken laugh because I couldn't understand it. How do you claim to love someone while stabbing them in the back with the sharpest knife possible? The days that followed were hell. I cut both of them off, blocked numbers, unfollowed everywhere, deleted old photos. But the silence was loud. Nights felt endless, haunted by memories and what-ifs. Some mutual friends tried to convince me to hear them out. Others admitted they had noticed the chemistry between Daniel and Emily, but didn't want to interfere. That hurt almost as much as the betrayal itself, the realization that people around me had seen red flags I ignored. Weeks later, a mutual friend called me. She said Emily had confessed that Daniel was pulling away from her too. He was distant, secretive, and she suspected he was already seeing someone else. That's when it hit me. Daniel wasn't just a liar. He was a pattern. He thrived on the chase, the secrecy, the thrill of betrayal. And Emily? She was just another stepping stone, the same way I had been. It didn't make her betrayal hurt less, but at least I understood. Neither of us was special. We were just casualties in his game. A month later, Daniel reached out through a fake account. He wrote, "I made a mistake. I miss us. Can we talk?" I ignored him, but Emily wasn't done either. She emailed me this long letter from a new email address she must have created since I blocked her. She blamed Daniel, saying he manipulated her, that she didn't mean to hurt me. She wanted forgiveness. But here's the thing. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. I could forgive her in my heart eventually, but I could never let her back into my life. Healing wasn't easy. I fell into a depression. Some days I couldn't eat, couldn't get out of bed. Therapy became my lifeline. Journaling helped too. I poured every ounce of pain onto paper so it wouldn't suffocate me inside. Slowly, I rebuilt. I focused on myself and started new hobbies, met new friends, and began learning to enjoy my own company again. And I realized something important. I had been so desperate for love and companionship that I ignored my instincts. Never again. It's been over a year now. Daniel and Emily aren't together anymore, from what I hear. And I don't care. That chapter is closed. What I do know is this. Betrayal teaches you who you really are. It shows you what you can survive. And while I'll never forget the pain they caused, I'm stronger for it. If you've ever faced betrayal like this, know you're not alone. The pain doesn't last forever, but the lessons do. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If you haven't already, hit subscribe to Toxic Chronicles, turn on the notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because trust me, there are plenty more shocking, real-life toxic stories on the way. If you want to share your stories on this channel, you can send us an email and we will share your story under another name if you want. See you in the next toxic story.